Hello, and welcome to this panel titled Renewable Energy Developments in a Net Zero World. My name is Andreas Gandolfo. I'm Head of European Power Markets at Bloomberg NEF. Before I begin, I'd like to thank the organizers for having us here. I think it's a beautiful event. It's also a beautiful day, which makes it extra nice. Our six panelists have a diverse background in the field of energy and approach the topics of the conversation from very different angles, so I'm very excited to introduce them. First of all, we have Alexandra Sdoukou, Secretary General for Energy and Mineral Resources at the Greek Ministry of Energy of Environment and Energy. Andreas Borgeas, I'm going alphabetically, forgive me, CEO of the Greece-Africa Power Interconnector owned by EUNICE. Kostas Eleftheriadis, Financial Advisory Partner at Deloitte in Greece. Konstantinos Mavros, CEO of PPC Renewables. Panagiotis Doumas, Member of the Executive Committee at Howden, and finally Vartan, Oskanian, forgive me if I'm saying your name wrong, Advisor to the CEO of RecomTech. Now, Europe has come a long way to decarbonize its electricity system, and renewables, especially wind and solar, have been at the core of it. In the last couple of years, the energy crisis underpinned by the gas supply crisis has given renewables a new boost in attractiveness, transforming them from a tool to achieve some long-term goals to achieve that can help address our current problems. And Alexandra, I would like to start by asking you the first question here and asking you to name a little bit of what has been the attitude shift towards renewable and how has this impacted the energy transition?
Hello. Okay. So hello everyone. Thank you very much for all of you who are here in the room to listen to us. I know that we are a lot of people on the panel. The time is not so much, so I come straight forward to your question. Thank you for that. Let me start by saying, well, I think that the geopolitical tensions, but also the energy crisis have wakened us up, and I'm very happy for that because we have all witnessed a Europe in panic actually last year. But let me also say that the need for the Europe and for the countries as well to decarbonize their energy system, this is not a new idea. It's mostly, so far it was mostly linked to the climate crisis, right? But what is new now is the urgency. This has changed. The change is on the urgency because all countries have set national plans, energy and climate plans. They have set long-term strategies. So we all have set targets for 2030, 2040, 2050. But what has changed with the war is that literally now we need to plan for tomorrow. Because on top of the climate crisis currently, we have a geopolitical crisis, and that has obviously maximized the urgency. The urgency for direct and immediate action. So I believe that the green energy transition, of course, is not losing momentum. Due to the recent energy crisis. On the contrary, I think the green transition is becoming more urgent than ever. And the answer, actually, to, let me say 3 points. The answer, I think, to the soaring energy prices is the green transition. It's by far the cheapest energy, the form that we have available today. The answer to the supply disruption as well is the green transition and the renewables. And fortunately, I think that Europe has enough renewables to cover its energy needs many times over, and the technologies to manage this potential, I think, are here as well today. I'm referring not just to production, storage, whatever. And obviously, the answer as well to our current geopolitical crisis is again the energy transition, because by reducing our dependence on fossil fuels, we essentially remove a powerful weapon from, I would say, the arsenal of unpredictable or hostile neighbors. So what is needed, and I'm finishing with this, is not just to lose momentum, because as I said, this has become an urgent necessity. What we need currently is to have bolder measures and policies, drastic ones, I would say, and more innovative technologies being deployed on a faster way. Regarding Greece and the government and what has done, I think that we have demonstrated during the past 4 years that we were in a position and we were quite determined to implement a quite significant number of policies and measures that with all those we show that Greece is really willing not just to meet the climate targets but to overpass them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Konstantinos, I would like to come to you because you're very close to the sector. Are you seeing a permanent shift with long-lasting impacts on how renewables are perceived? And maybe within that context, what part of the renewable industry has experienced the biggest change during this crisis?
Thank you. The answer is already in the words of Secretary General. She has been working, and we need to acknowledge this, very hard for Greece to actually perform the energy transition. Now, talking about the energy transition, I'd like to say that there are tools out there, starting from a REPowerEU program, in order to reduce our dependency from Russia after the invasion 2022. And also we have RRF, so there are tools out there to make sure that this green transition is solid, is happening, and it's happening very quickly. So I believe, and as I like to say always, this is a very inclusive game, it's not an exclusive one. It's for everybody to work jointly to make sure we install enough renewables to actually work for reducing the dependency, to create and produce cheap electricity, and for the well-being of the households after all. Because having a competitive industry within our borders will create the necessary conditions for households to have prosperity. So I believe that this is permanent. I believe that renewables are perceived now, and this is totally understandable, as the only way forward towards the energy transition and prosperity as a society. Renewables is energy democracy for everybody. Decentralized production creates the necessary conditions for non-dependency whatsoever, and I believe we are going towards a renewable world without any boundaries. Having said all that, the energy scape within Europe will be integrated, and this is our target for the years to come. We need all to work about it, and I'm very positive on these conditions.
Thank you very much. Now, Andreas, I would like to come to you. And during our conversations earlier, you spoke of the geopolitical risks the energy crisis highlighted. What are those in a broader context? How do renewables, maybe in combinations with some technologies like interconnectors, storage, hydrogen, help us overcome these?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It's a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank the Delphi Forum for allowing this event to happen. I think the Secretary General teed it off quite well. The geopolitical and geostrategic situation that we find ourselves in right now, it was precipitated, obviously, with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. But my background happens to be in politics and in policy. I come from the California Senate, where California believes that it leads the United States in terms of policy. What I've realized is that Europe is in a position right now to lead the West entirely, because they are approaching energy, as was said earlier, not just from a strategic standpoint, but from a necessity standpoint. And so when you start looking at how we have looked upon energy security in the past and that paradigm shift that has occurred, we, I believe, have to have Greece and all the other members of the European Union look upon ways that diversity is a protective measure. What I mean by diversity of sources. whether it's hydrogen, whether it's electricity, or whether it's some other form of energy, whether it's leapfroggable today into tomorrow and the next day, is that Greece is in a unique position as an emerging energy hub, and in my capacity as CEO of the Greece Africa Power Electrical Interconnection Project, we're at the forefront of this argument of how do we make certain that Greece emerges as a geopolitical leader in Europe, and what policies does it have in place? I think one of the challenges that we're seeing right now is that Greece wants to emerge as a leader and is poised to, but maybe doesn't necessarily have the infrastructure in place to do so. But given the timeline of all these projects, I mean, we could be looking at 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So that's plenty of time for Greece to invest heavily into its infrastructure and allow for the diversification of these sources. The electrical interconnection between Greece and Egypt being one of them.
Thank you, and you can call me Andreas if you want it. I'm okay with that. Vartan, I would like to come to you. Now, we've heard how we need to strengthen our energy security by investing in more renewables, but renewables themselves carry a risk, a geopolitical risk. I mean, I think a good example that a lot of people quote is how panels are primarily manufactured in China. How concerned should we be about this risk, and how do we overcome it if it is a concern?
Well, I think, first, thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here. Of course, we should be concerned, given the targets that our governments are setting for our countries and the EU in general. We should be concerned about the geopolitics of this energy transition. We should be very careful that we do not come out of one trap, which was the fossil oil trap, being dependent on oil and gas heavily on few countries, on oil and gas concentrated in few regions, and get into some other trap, which is one country dominating the whole value chain of supply for our future energy transition. So this is very critical. So it's a policy matter. I agree with the previous speakers that the governments now need to come in and put their heads together so that we can devise a comprehensive policy for a general approach for our whole future transition. The writing is on the wall. There's no doubt that the renewables will have the future or supply of energy. But very quickly, so that what I say make this a bit more sense and put it in more practical terms, just say very quickly where I come from. I represent RecomTech, and RecomTech is the jack of all trades when it comes to renewables. We have a manufacturing facility in France. We have cell manufacturing facility in Italy. We are headquartered here as administrative offices in Athens, and we run our business from here. We do development globally, solar parks. We have in Germany, we have in the United States. We're developing 1.1 gigawatt capacity in Greece as we speak. And for the 600 around, we're waiting for our grid connection permit. We do research and development. We have plans to expand. Now we're negotiating with our partners, big renewable funds in the United States, so that we put a gigawatt facility there for cell and module in the United States, so that we also benefit from the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, and the whole subsidies that will be provided. The reason I mentioned all this simply to say that on a daily basis, in real time, we are encountering all the headwinds and also benefiting from the tailwinds for the energy transition. We sell modules in more than 100 countries, so we know what are the problems, what are the logistics behind it. And truly, there are many, many concerns that we need to deal with if we truly want to have a smooth transition to clean energy in the coming years and decades.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, Kostas, I would like to come to you and ask you, you work closely with investors. Have you seen a shift in attitude towards renewables during the energy crisis? Have they become more risk-averse or less risk-averse? And in general, how has their behavior changed, considering everything that has happened in the markets?
would like to thank you also for the invitation to participate in this panel. It's really an honor. I think that the shift is on the positive side because energy has been one of the sectors lately that has a lot of attention. Investors are heavily investing in Greece in renewables, and we can see this not only this year but also during the previous years. And the appetite, I think, is that to invest even further in the years to come. There are many challenges. There are things that we can do better. There are things that we can change in order to attract more investments. But at the end of the day, I think that the attitude is positive. We have seen a shift. The interest rates that they were low, they were helping investments in Greece. All the prosperity in Greece over the last years, it was helping, besides the energy crisis and all the things that were happening in the European Union. And even now, with increased interest rates and inflation that is currently decreasing, but anyway, Greece, I think, is one of the areas, even in Europe and in the regions, even in Europe, that investors are focusing, especially for the energy projects and especially for turning Greece into the energy hub that we are discussing.
Thank you. Now, finally, Panagiotis, I would like to come to you. And I'll be honest, you come from insurance, so you come from a very different background. But after speaking to you over these days, I realized that you play a very crucial role in the energy transition and in decarbonization. So I'd like to ask you, what's your perspective on how the industry is changing considering the energy transition, and has insurance become an easier business in this context, in the energy, in like high inflation, high interest rates, or has it become an easier business, always regarding the subject of renewables?
Thank you for first of all, thank you for the invitation. Of course, because I'm not an expert in energy, but I have this expertise in insurance, I will try to approach the topic from the insurance point of view. The energy crisis, together with the gas disruption due to the Ukrainian war, has kick-started, as we can see nowadays, a tremendous development in renewable energy project. In renewable energy project, is it better now? We can see much bigger project taking place. We see that the kickoff of discussions for interconnectors, for storage, and so on, especially in Greece, where solar and where solar and wind energy are in abundance. The renewable energy can help tackle down the energy crisis by bringing down the costs. Of course, in order to protect this investment that will bring us closer to energy transition and help us deal with the energy crisis, the role of insurance is very important. I have to admit that insurance is becoming much more complex with all the development of technologies, with the development of technology and with the climatic change and the new trends of investments. We are all familiar probably with the traditional insurance product, which is the physical damage, the protection from physical damage and business interruption, which are becoming more and more important nowadays with the increase of the price of the components and also supply chain issues that can cause to big, let's say, delays in repairs. Beside all of this, the need for accelerating processes has brought insurance very close to cover this gap of this development by, let's say, with bringing on to surface new product. these products have come to cover the PPAs, have come to cover the M&As, have come to cover the O&Ms, and I would like to say that being together now with Konstantinos in Copenhagen, we came across manufacturers that have limited now the O&M scope, and insurance has come there to cover this limitation and protect the operators and owners. Of course, insurance has its own limitations, and